Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Building Trust and Adoption of AI in the Newsroom. In today's publishing landscape, there is a ever-growing need for high-quality content that resonates with audiences while driving organic search traffic. Publishers, like many of you who are joining us today, are looking to AI to help streamline the production of that content and make sure that it is reaching the audiences that is looking for it. But there's a lot of uncertainty about what exists and how to get started. But fear not, over the coming webinar, I have two experts with me today who will dive in and talk about what they're seeing in the field and how to adopt AI in newsrooms and best practices that they're seeing in the field. So let's go over today's agenda. First up, I'll do some intros, starting with myself. I'm Ryan Gladstone, Director of Product Platform here at ArcXP, and I'm joined by Ariel Burkett of Mather Economics. She is the head of international development. She is the head of global sales and partnerships at Mather Economics, and Corentin Mirande is the head of international development at Semji. These experts bring a ton of knowledge and experience to the table, so we're super excited to share their knowledge and their perspectives with us. We're going to start with a brief overview of AI and talk about some of the sentiments of publishing leaders and what they're seeing as kind of the hottest opportunities. And then we'll dive into a roundtable discussion for a few key topics pertaining to AI adoption in the newsroom, including who's using it, what's working so far, what are some of the challenges that newsrooms are running into, and most importantly, how to build trust with these tools and key steps to getting started. And then finally, we'll have a Q&A session where we'll hear from all of you. So please don't be shy and send in your comments and questions throughout the session. We'll be reviewing them, either answering them during the roundtable or QA at the end. And then finally, one programming note, this session is being recorded, so you can watch it again later or share it with your colleagues. And so before we dive into the roundtable, I wanted to share a few key stats from a recent Reuters survey about some of the top priorities as seen by newsroom leaders around the world. So leading the pack is back-end automation opportunities, including the ability to streamline workflows and production. 56% of industry leaders see this as a key application of AI in 2024. Another strong use is using AI for distribution and recommendations, such as personalized homepages and alerts. This is necessary for business operations and year. At the other end of the spectrum, news gathering was ranked as the least important use of AI in 2024, with only 22% of publishers feeling like this was a promising opportunity for the current year. So with those facts on the table, I'd love to introduce my two panelists to talk about what they're seeing in the field.
Thanks, Ryan. Do you want me to introduce myself to start?
That's great.
Yeah, let's do it. So as Ryan said, my name is Corentin Mirande. I know that's so French. I'm split between Canada and in France. So it's been a bit more than 10 years in the SEO SaaS industry, working mainly with big companies in, of course, the media industry, but also e-commerce industry, finance industry. Semji is a SaaS company, AI-based SaaS company that wants to improve the performance of content online. And when we talk about performance, it's mainly about traffic increase, of course, conversion increase, but also about time saving. So we are all about productivity, and of course, AI is a big topic on that. So thanks, Ryan, for having me here. Thanks, ArcXP, and of course, don't be shy. I'm sure you will have lots of questions. Ariel, now we're here to answer all of that. So yeah, feel free to interrupt us with questions, and we'll be glad to answer all of that. Thank you.
Great. And hi, everyone. I'm Ariel Burkett. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone for joining today. I lead global sales and partnerships for Sophie, which is part of Mather Economics. We help publishers globally to accelerate their business objectives, from site automation, curation solutions, to paywall solutions, to print laydown, print automation solutions. So really helping publishers to really thrive in today's world. So with that, maybe I'll kick it off, Ryan, just talk a little bit about some of the ways that we're seeing publishers use AI in their newsrooms today. And it's been a really incredible year in terms of acceleration of AI tools and things that we're seeing in the market. There's obviously efficiency is a huge driving force or factor that newsrooms are taking into consideration. How can we do more with less, essentially? So we're seeing things like, AI assistance, so, kickstarting coverage day by day. We're seeing a lot of production of video, newsletter content, fact checking, predictive tools that can really spot the emerging trends based on patterns in social and web searches. And then for myself, on a daily basis, I'm working with publishers on site automation. So really using our solution so that they can automate what would otherwise be a very monotonous and repetitive task, so that they can streamline workflows, have more time to develop and engage audiences, find more creative ways, innovative ways to generate revenue. And the way that works, we can automate homepages, section pages, article pages in a human-like way. So ensuring the page still looks and feels like it's been developed by the editorial team, but ensuring it's also always performing or being displayed so that the highest value content is always being displayed in the most premium position. So being able to apply automation to the workflow not only relieves the newsroom of that effort, but also ensures that the pages are always being optimized to the best of their ability. And then we're seeing things like innovation. So we're seeing quizzes, for example, that are powered by AI that are automatically, built using the words and the text that's in their own content. So, AI for efficiency, AI for innovation ultimately is driving revenue for publishers today. It's enabling creativity and allowing more bandwidth for your incredibly talented staff to be able to think about new ways to engage and retain subscribers. Corentin, what about you?
Yeah, I think there is so many things to say about that, but you talked about efficiency. I also about productivity. Of course, we all know that processing content can take a lot of time. Maybe it's the most time-consuming task you can possibly imagine. So if you achieve to save time in your different processes, it's a game changer. So that I would say the first thing. And the second thing, and that's really important when it's about media industry and newspapers, and of course within a newsroom, it's to be able to focus on quality. And here I would say that we have a client. I can't tell the name, but it's pretty good, and I'm sure lots of you will be able to do the same if you want to. So before using AI, they had a lot of steps, a very complex workflow. They wanted to create, let's say, an article, a long form article, like 1,000 words, 2,000 words. And the first step was, okay, we need to create a brief. Okay, so we need to do a compassion analysis. Then we need to create a first draft. So it's been done by a freelancer. Okay, is the content good enough or not? Okay, then third step, we need to optimize that first draft content. So that means repurposing to have the right tone of voice. That means fact check everything. That means SEO optimize this piece of content. So that takes a lot of time. And then because they are still in the health industry, they need to have an expert validation, meaning a doctor, a gynecologist, a physiotherapist, reviewing, proofreading this piece of content. So you see lots of person involved, so lots of inertia, and it's pretty costly. So that was before. And now, because they are using AI the right way, all the first steps are done in one click, like 10 seconds process. So meaning the brief creation is done in 10 seconds, because we are able to understand what the competition is doing, what Google is expecting, what the audience is expecting, thanks to AI. Then we create the first draft through Gen AI content. meaning that we have a first draft like 1,000 words, 2,000 words in maybe a minute, and then and only then we have a human coming in. So no inertia, only one person involved, focus on quality, focus on proofreading, focus on giving the special touch, I would say, to this piece of content. And so to give you results on this specific case, before a long form content like 1,000 words, it was about, let's say a day, like between 6 hours and 8 hours of work. So a huge amount of time. Now it's about an hour. So imagine that on a year-long production, it's a game changer. So I would say that's what mind blowed me the most that on the last year. That's this specific example, and we see that quite a lot these times.
That's great. I'm sure everyone kind of hearing about all these efficiencies and kind of having their human content producers focus on what only humans can do. It sounds really compelling. But I'm curious to hear kind of what challenges that you've seen from content teams and newsrooms in actually implementing that and finding the right opportunities for their teams.
There are quite a lot. Who want to start? Okay, I can do that first, but of course, yeah, I'm pretty sure you will have lots of examples too. I would say there will be, I would say, two main things. The first one is in a newsroom, when you talk about AI, it's equal poor quality. And I would say that's ChatGPT's fault because like two years ago, maybe a year ago, we were all tested ChatGPT and we were like, okay, it's amazing. And then we tested a bit more and it was like, okay, it's not that good at all. So like in our mind and in the newsroom mind, like AI is now poor quality, but there is not only ChatGPT on the market. And that's the first thing that we need to rebuild. We need to rebuild trust in different tools, in tools that have the right data sets, that have the right features to be able to ensure a certain level of quality. All of that is very, very important, I would say. So I would say trust and not having in mind that AI equals poor quality is the first like big challenge that we need to tackle first. Then it's about also resistant to change. I would consider AI not only as a technical topic, but also as a human resource topic. And that's really important to me and to Semji as company, because we need to have in mind that newsrooms are composed by people, and those people have lived different revolution. Like in the last 20 years, it was constant revolution. Print to web, web to mobile, mobile to Google first, and then it's about AI. So they can be a bit bored, or it can be a bit hard for them to find a comfort zone. So we need to help them to build this new comfort zone and to focus on what they're good at, meaning creating quality article, having fresh news, interesting news, all of that. So yeah, to summarize all this, I would say quality first and resistant to change from a human perspective.
That's really interesting. I mean, as an emerging technology, obviously there's going to be bumps in the road, things that are not quite finished. So how do you work with the newsroom to kind of introduce a new technology, even though it's maybe not going to be in its final state yet, because there's still years of development, kind of hardcore engineering, and then implementation and kind of last mile implementation to get it there. How do you introduce it and iterate without kind of breaking that trust model and having people say, that's a cute toy, we're going back to our old way of working?
That's, I would say, the main points of any AI-related project. So as I said, we need to tackle two main challenges, quality and resistant to change. And to do that, we as a company, and I personally from experience, I would say it's a three-stage process or three steps. The first one is exploration. And because if you wrote it out like first day of the project, you will have problems. So you need to explore. What does it mean? You need to set AI times for your team. You need to create space of discussion and to be open-minded about the feedbacks, about the fear of your teams, about all of that, to be able to to involve the right person, and not only C-levels or senior managements. It's also about journalists, about copywriters, about editors, the real people working, the real task force, I would say. So I would say that's step one, exploration. Then assessment, launch POCs. You test it out on a website, on the market, and evaluate those POCs, and evaluate that not as like C-levels again, but evaluate that the success of those POCs by your teams. Like on a daily basis, does a journalist save time using this new process? Yes or no? And that's not up to you to say. That's up to your team, to the journalist. Then we will need to roll it out, as I said. So it's step three, industrialization. So industrialization is based on successful POCs. You modify your different processes to implement AI on all of your websites, for example, or on all of your market. So yeah, 3 steps. First one, exploration. Second step, assessment. Third step, industrialization.
That's great. Ariel, I'm curious what you've seen in the market as far as how to organize teams to kind of address those steps and roll out generative AI successfully.
Yeah, so, when talking about teams, it's really important because I've seen a mix of the way different publishers work. Some have a very robust structure in place where they have cross-department teams. You've got someone from, the newsroom, someone from the commercial, from tech, really coming together. And so those teams those publishers are generally set up for the greatest success because their objectives are all aligned. There are no surprises. And so that, when we work with publishers that have these very robust teams, it's generally a much more seamless onboarding process. When it comes to process, I mean, we take a lot of pride in having very detailed documentation, having a very concrete timeline that all parties are aligned with. And so that's, following those steps and ensuring that everybody is on the same page is critical. I do want to go back just talking a little bit about, implementing and executing. So I think sometimes where we've seen challenges is where an AI solution has been acquired and there are surprises, or let's say the newsroom finds out about a new solution later in the game. I think having a very transparent process at the outset, and again going back to that notion of having an organized team that crosses the entire organization is critical, so that there is alignment right out of the gate.
Yeah, if I can add something, I think, Ariel, you just point something really important. It's to be able to involve different stakeholders, even when you buy a new tool. We've seen so many projects, like we only talk to C-levels, and they're all like, okay, we can save time, we can gain performance, all of that. But we never talked to journalists or to copywriters or even to SEO managers before the day of the launch. And as human person, it can be a bit hard. Like I'm getting ordered to do something that maybe I don't want to. So it's really important for the sake of the project and for the project, for POCs, for industrialization, to involve everybody before even you purchase a new tool or a new tech or to set a new workflow in place.
Yeah, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into the proof of concept and what are some best practices around, like, what does a good, meaningful proof of concept look like, and kind of what kind of timelines should people expect?
So I would say that will depend on the type of project that you want to tackle and the time you need to have real results. Us in the SEO industry, we often say that to have real results, you need to have between 3 and 9 months between the launch and optimized results. So I would say between 3 and 9 months for the first POC. And you spoke about and you asked about best practices. I would say we often recommend phase one and phase two. Like phase one is to try with a small team. Ariel, you talked about like a task force. I think that's important to have in mind. Compose that task force with IT person, developers, journalists, people from different levels of the organization, all of that, and choose a space, a website, for example, or a market on which you can do whatever you want. You don't want any constraints adding to the new constraint that you will have. So let's say that you are a US based company or a French based company. Do this where you're most comfortable. Don't do that on another language, for example, because it's going to be harder. Or you have multiple websites, but let's say that one website is specifically you never work on, and technically it's a real complex website, and so you can't do whatever you want because the templates of pages are not good at all those different things. So I would say start with one or two websites, one or two market with a task force team, and after 3 or 9 months, like measure success and roll it out.
Yeah, to your point, Corentin, the phased approach is really critical. The last thing you want to do is roll out everything at once and then have to learn from mistakes. And so this phased approach is critical also for the newsroom, so that they can see success, understand that it's not a black box, that they're not losing control essentially, but that it's helping to really make smart decisions, human-like decisions in the case of site automation, but that it also helps the business really understand the potential lift, the page lift and whatnot. So being able to roll out in a phased approach is really important. For us, we're live within a 4-month period, and then from there we start to quickly expand after that. So phase one is a small selection of widgets, as Corentin noticed. Phase one and phase two is really rapid expansion, and that's really when the newsroom starts to see the efficiencies, and they can then start thinking about higher value work. So when the business can really start to see page lift, and so by the time we get to a year, there really should be very little effort from the newsroom standpoint, where they should be able to prioritize higher value work by that point.
Yeah, if I can add something here, like a quick tip, when I think communication is really important for the success of those kind of projects, because it's all about trust, as we said before. And so if you have a communication from C-levels to a newsroom, for example, and always the same way, you're going to have a problem at some point. So if you can, I would recommend for communications to be made by colleagues on the same level, like a journalist saying, okay, it's successful because this reason and that reason, to other journalists. Because if you have like a digital manager or an editor-in-chief or the CEO of the company telling, okay, we're good because this and that, you can have like a bit of, I don't trust the person because this person have personal interest in going that way. So colleague to a colleague, it's always a good thing to do. And yeah, I think that's something interesting, I would say.
That's great. You both spoke about how important it is to build trust in the newsroom, to leverage colleagues and early wins to build that trust. Ariel, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how we can ensure the integrity of those AI built workflows and make sure that they are, acting, with our values in mind.
Mm-hmm. So the newsroom is actively involved in a site automation project from, before the word go, from the very, very early conversations. And that's because the newsroom essentially trains our models. So we want to understand what content is eligible for what positions across a site. And that's really the newsroom that's going to be able to dictate that. So they are going to be the ones that help us understand, what content is eligible for what spot, so that we can then ensure that the the best possible piece of content is positioned accordingly. So having newsroom participation from the outset, really helping to train our models is critical, because we ultimately want to curate the page in a human-like way as they would. So that's a really important piece of it. And it's also important that the newsroom understands that this is a solution that's meant to empower and enhance, not replace their efforts. So getting their buy-in, getting their support from the early days is important. We also have some rigorous A/B testing. That's part of it. We also have override training. So the newsroom also feels a lot of confidence in being able to override one of our SOFI decisions if there is, a business reason, or if there's breaking news, or if there's just, mission, content that's just important for their brand, they can override. And so that's also a critical piece. So we work really closely, not only with the commercial teams, but the newsroom teams, so that we are going to be showing the site, the page, the article pages in a way that they would do that as well. We're also seeing, outside site automation, seeing publishers are taking more proactive steps around transparency. So, the New York Times, they've got, enhanced reporter bios, for example, so that readers, users can, get more insight into who's writing this content. So there's more transparency on that side of things. And then I think when newsrooms are selecting who to work with in terms of a provider, I was fortunate to have been part of a company that was built by a newsroom for a newsroom. So, having these deep roots in the newsroom really helps to ensure the integrity is there, and ensure that we don't lose sight of the brand and its mission. And so as a result, that's really part of our DNA. So I think when publishers are seeking out, AI solutions, really understanding, where they began, and the types of newsrooms they support is a really important part of the process.
So Ariel, for those of us who haven't been living AI since well before ChatGPT captured everyone's imagination, can you just give us a 101 explainer on what training is? And kind of, you mentioned the importance of journalists being involved in training, but if you're not kind of from the AI world, what does that even mean? How is the journalist teaching the robot to make the right decision?
So we look at a website, and so I'll talk about it from a site automation standpoint. I can also talk about it from a paywall engine standpoint, but from a site automation standpoint, we want to understand from the newsroom what articles are eligible for what positions on a page. So if a particular publisher needs to have a sport article here, an article on, on politics, or by a certain author, we will then curate those widgets based on that editorial insight. If a page needs to be curated for a certain geography, and that's, editorial feels strongly they want to be able to have, content that's for Canada, for this particular user base. But if someone from Europe is reading it, they want them to see a different experience, then we would get that insight from editorial, from the newsroom, so that we can then train our models accordingly. From a paywall standpoint, when we think about model training, it's really looking at historical data, understanding what users, what previous users, so what those user features might have looked like, what device they're coming in from, what geography, what browser they used, what content converted them last time. So we can then train models based on those various different user features and make decisions about whether they have a propensity to subscribe. So understand that part is more looking at historical data rather than newsroom participation, which is more the case for site automation.
Yeah, I think the question of the data set is really, really important. And I'm glad that, Ariel, you talked about that. So you using AI, using the newsroom to train your AI system. We retrieve fresh data because we talked a lot about quality. A huge thing about AI is hallucination. And if you have hallucination within a piece of content, for example, you do have a problem as a publisher. So we technically made point of honor to retrieve fresh data. So if we talk about inflation, we'll have the current inflation rate where we're located in. So it can be in the US, in France, in Argentina, whatever. So I would say the data set is really important. And also one thing that you talked about is also the identity as a brand, as a corporation. Because the New York Times, the Washington Post, whatever brands have a specific brand voice. And that's really important to understand and also to take into account when you use AI. We don't want as citizens or as normal people, I would say, to have always the same brand voice, the same way it's written, because it will be boring. So we need to create specific brand voice, and we can do that through AI, but we'll need the data set to be trained to use a specific tone of voice. But at Semji, that's what we do, and we can create different brand voice, because of course, if you are writing about sport events, you will not use the exact same tone of voice as if you are speaking about the death of someone else, of someone, or a tragic incident in whatever place. So we can train different tone of voice to make sure that the content is written in a specific way. Because otherwise, for the newsroom, it will be a problem, but also for your audience, and that's an even bigger problem, I would say.
Cool. One thing that came up in the chat is you both mentioned kind of the efficiencies that can be gained from AI and how you could take something that used to take 8 hours, now it takes 1 hour, or used to have someone, manually curating your homepage, and now, AI can learn from those decisions and do that in an automated fashion. You also said that it's not about, replacing those roles, but instead having them focus on, higher impact or higher value work. So I'd love to hear some case studies about how, team members who had to do things that were manual or tedious were freed from that, and kind of how they were able to, produce, either more journalism or better journalism, thanks to having AI offload some of the more tedious tasks.
I can take that. So having been built within the Globe and Mail, I think that's a really good example for us to start with, where they were able to allocate a significant number of their resources to higher value work. So for example, able to devote more time towards things like explainers on site so that they could then develop new ways to engage potentially new subscribers or new ways to retain subscribers. You can also look at, having more time on your hands to be able to develop, podcasts, for example. We've seen a huge shift towards publishers increasing the number of podcasts that they're doing in order to, drive reach and drive engagement. And that's really delivering significant, gains for organizations. And so, we're all aware that very rarely are our newsrooms increasing the number of staff, of resources. And so being able to relieve, 5 of your staff to higher value work, to developing explainers, developing podcasts, to really thinking about new content that can engage and retain subscribers, and then, developing new content to acquire new subscribers, I think is critical. What about you, Corentin? Do you have any examples?
Yeah, yes, of course. I'm pretty sure you have thousands of examples, and I do too here. The first thing that we need to have in mind is where we're at right now, maybe a year ago. And it became like in a newsroom, it was like a bit of a contest of who's typing the fastest. And that's a problem. With AI, you're never going to type as fast as an AI system. So it's not about who's typing the fastest, it's about who's doing the best quality content. So that means that you need to focus your efforts on retrieving interesting data, creating new data, having breaking news, things that will create an interest, and not only having thousands of different content, because everybody can do that. I can have a new website tomorrow with 1,000 articles like clicking, like it can be 1 hour of work for me. Yet there is no value in doing that because everybody can do that. Like not everybody, but lots of people can do that. So in a company, in like a business-worthy company, it's more about a focus on quality, retrieving fresh data, interesting data, creating a brand identity, as I said before. So focus your human resources on that, and not on who's typing the fastest.
That's great. So before we dive into the question and answer, I'd love to hear both of your takes on what we can expect from AI, both in the year, but especially as we start to look to 2025 and beyond, and what you're excited about.
I can go first. So
Yeah,
I think that there's going to be much more rapid adoption of AI tools in the newsroom. I think that we can all agree. I think during times of uncertainty, it's even more so a time to innovate, do things a bit differently than you did before. So I think more newsrooms will be dipping their toe in the water and really trying to adapt and find new ways of working to be more efficient. But also we've talked about how efficiency also drives revenue because you've got more time to innovate and develop new products and new ways of engaging audiences. I think that we're going to see a lot more in the way of cross-functional teams that are really focused on accelerating businesses. So there'll be a much more innovative and forward-looking focus on how newsrooms and businesses as a whole can really develop their AI strategies. And as a result, there'll be some reskilling. I think some reskilling is going to be important to really make sure that teams are equipped with the right people who can support these AI powered projects. And then I think there could potentially be some more deals done with, OpenAI and other AI companies, which could potentially lead to some revenue for some of the bigger news orgs that are looking to access AI tools. So I think it's a really exciting time in this space. There's a ton of acceleration. There's a lot of opportunity to really accelerate business forward by driving efficiency, by driving, new innovations in the market. And I'm really optimistic about what's to come.
I don't know if it's funny, but we foresee the same future. So that's good. I would say the first thing is like in the near future, everybody is going to use AI. Every company. So I would say the main impact of that, it's not a differentiation to create lots of things. Like the era of volume is done. It's over. So as companies, we will need to create new differentiators, better experience, better quality, better brand identity, create community, whatever. But as I said, the era of volume is over, and so we need to create new differentiation. In midterm, I would say I foresee like all-in-one AI systems. Right now, we do have systems for content generation, image generation, video generation, and all of that as in silos, one by one. I'm pretty sure like in the next couple of months, next couple of years at the most, it will be more about how we can integrate that where the people are. Like you're using a specific text editor, like Composer, for example, and you want to use a specific AI feature for text generation or for video generation or for content repurposing or for retrieving whatever data. I'm pretty sure in the near future, you're going to be able to do that. And so it's going to be even easier for non-specialist people to do that, like without any skills in prompt engineering or any of that. That's my future, I would say.
Yeah, it's super exciting to have it available to everyone. So I think that's it for the roundtable conversation. Now we'll transition into Q&A. So if you have any questions, please send them in now, and we'll get to them. But we do have one already, which I will send to Corentin because it is SEO related. And the guests would like to know, what are the SEO implications for AI content, especially with some of the Google's updates around byline versus non-byline content and expert authority?
That's an amazing question, and a question I have like every day, every meeting, I would say. Like there is an official communication of Google on that. The speaker for SEO related topics, John Miller, said, we don't care if it's AI generated or human generated content. It's all about, is it quality? Does it bring value to an audience? So I would say the thing is not about AI or not about AI, but mainly does it answer to a specific search intent? Does it answer to your audience? Do you have a unique content? Because of course we can have duplicate content problem. So mainly my recommendation would be first, make sure that your content is SEO optimized. And by meaning SEO optimized, I'm not talking about keyword stuffing. I'm talking about, do you answer to your audience problems, the different search intents they are looking for, the different question they are asking. And so you need to answer all of that within your piece of content. If it's AI generated or human generated, like honestly, we don't care. We've done lots of results. We have more than 500 clients generating thousands of content per month. And lots of them are AI generated. Of course, it can be a bit repurposed. We can add some sentences, we can add some paragraph, of course, yet a huge part of that is AI generated. And just so you know, on average, our client makes plus 40% in traffic and plus 42% conversion. So it works, and it's not working on small websites. We have clients all over the world, mostly big companies. So that's the first thing, and yeah, that's it. I would say.
Cool. Thanks so much. So hopefully everyone has found some interesting insights about how AI can be applied in their newsrooms and what some next steps look like. Hopefully this has captured your interest so much you'd like to learn more. And so at this point, I'll pass it over to Ariel to talk about some upcoming opportunities.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for including me today in today's conversation. You'll see a slide here on the Mather Symposium that's coming up next month. Thanks to you all for joining today. We're offering a 20% discount off the rate to enter. It's going to be an incredible few days talking about all the topics that are relevant for our industry. We've got fantastic attendance. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. Really hope to see you there. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message and I can send you more information, but do register, and hope to see you next month.
Thanks. And thanks for the question. It was quite amazing. On our side, we are organizing our event called the SEO Square. It's coming in April 9 and 10. It's free, it's online, so it's easy to go to. You just need to register using this little QR code. It will be all about how you can skyrocket your SEO goals, your content productivity. Of course, we'll talk a lot about AI. We'll talk a lot about SGE. I'm sure you're well aware of the changes about all those things. It's 2 days, 11 or 12 conferences, lots of amazing speakers. I will have the chance to have one slot for myself, but we will have like 10 or 11 other speakers. It will be quite amazing. So register, it's free. If you don't have the time, you will have the replays. Go for it, and we'll be happy to have you here.
Great. Thanks so much, Ariel and Corentin, for joining us and sharing your expertise today. It's been really awesome to hear about all the exciting applications for AI and see what is working across the newsrooms that you're working with around the world.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks to you all for tuning in. Please let us know if you have any follow-up questions, and we'll be happy to get to them. Thanks again for your time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.